All right, so we've separated the foreground from the background. We've separated the young boy from the background. So what we have now is the composition showing the boy with nothing in the background. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to grab that boy movie layer and we're going to put it back underneath. Now it looks like it started, right? And again, that's just an illusion because what's happening is we're looking at the cutout over top of the background. So doesn't look like anything changed when I turn that layer on and off, but that's just because it's like exactly in the same place, which is where I want it to be. So now what I can do is I can have some fun with that background and change the way that looks. So what I'm going to do is I can do this here. I can change the name of this. I can't do it up here. I can do it down in here because this is basically considered a layer. So again, we can go in here and I could just call this background. Right, so I know that it's the background of that movie. That's all really I'm using it for. So now with that layer selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to Effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some color correction. So I'm going to go color correction. And there's a few things I can do here. So let's play around with some different settings here. Okay, let's see, what shall we do? Yeah, you know what, why don't we play around with hue and saturation? Yeah, this is kind of a basic thing. So now what I can do is basically kind of change the whole look of that background, right, by messing around with the colors, right? So you can see now I'm only really seeing what's going on that background layer because it has absolutely no effect on that foreground layer. So you get the idea of you know how cool it can be to play around with some of these effects. And there's a colorizing, for example. So now I can start playing around with the degrees of colorizations. So maybe I'll give it like almost a sepia tone look. So he's like boy from the future over boy from the past, right? And you can see how that creates a really cool kind of effect by playing around with these effects. Well, you know, why stop there? I mean, there's all kinds of cool things we can do here. So again, we'll take that playhead back to the first frame, and what we'll do is we'll put some animated text on there, and we'll kind of add it in there and create some cool effects. So what we'll do now is we're going to go and we're going to put in a new text layer. So we'll go new text layer. And we'll activate our text tool. It's already activated. So there's an empty text layer. So what we'll do now is we'll go in here and yeah, we'll just use that Helvetica. Maybe, you know what, maybe we'll pick a color, a nice like blue, and we'll increase the size of that font so it's fairly large. And actually I'll make it a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, that's probably big. And what we'll do basically now is we'll click and we'll type in winter blues. Now, of course, it doesn't really matter where that is. We'll click that, and of course, what we can do now is go to the transform properties, and you know, basically we can take the position and we can adjust it wherever we want. But what's cool is what we're going to do is we're going to animate it, because what's going to happen now is we're going to have it move through the background. So we're going to take it, and using some keyframes, we're going to create a cool effect. So we're going to take that winter blues and we're going to drag it right off the side of the screen. So we're right at the beginning, drop a keyframe there, indicating that that's where it's going to start. Move my playhead forward, and then what we'll do is we'll drag winter blues so that it goes right across the screen. So there's your tweening path. I'll take it so it goes right across the screen. Yeah, right off the screen, just like that. So now, you know, when we play it back, right, it almost looks like we're playing in 3D space, right? Because we put that layer between the background and the boy. And yeah, again, you can do all kinds of really cool stuff. Maybe I'll put a drop shadow on that to kind of emphasize that effect. So I can go layer, and I can go down here, and I can basically kind of layer styles. And you know what? Let's go crazy. Let's put an outer glow on there. Yeah, that way it stands out a little bit more. So yeah, so there you go. So that's a pretty cool effect. All right, so we've done a lot of changes there. We'll go File, Save As, update our version number, and let's assume that this is all we're going to do, and we're quite happy with that effect. So, of course, again, part of that whole workflow thing is we need to, if this is the final version, right, we're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to say this is L9 final. And now what I'll do is I'm going to actually make sure I spell that right, final. And then I want to make sure I'm putting it into the proper folder. So again, I got to navigate back to my desktop, and I got to find my master folder. And there's my master folder, and there's finished project. So that's where I want to put it. And there's that little stupid bug that it does here for some reason. Again, that's what happens when you have a subscription to a program and it does stupid stuff. So I'm just make sure that that gets saved as final, and I'll just double check to make sure it absolutely, yeah, there it is. Okay, I spelled final wrong again, but regardless. So that's going to be my final version of that. Okay, so now that's the AEP file. I want to render this out. Now, here's another problem that's been happening with rendering, okay? First off, you have to select the master composition. That's what I want to render. I don't want to render the movie. That's an asset. So make sure you got the master composition. Now, go to Composition and go to Add to Render Queue. So the render queue is going to open up. Now, again, there's a couple of things here that you need to be aware of, okay? So there's render settings. We're going to leave that alone, but lossless, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Notice the default format is animation. The problem with that is that the frame rate does not anywhere near resemble any frame rate that you will find in video or film. So when you render this out, it's going to play back really choppy in your NLE, if it plays back at all. And people have been losing marks because they're not paying attention to this. So what I need to do is I need to change that. I'm not doing animation. I'm working with video. So I need to pick a video-friendly codec. All of these are video-friendly codecs, okay? Because it's high def, I'm just going to go with Apple ProRes 444. And basically now that's a video-friendly codec. It's going to be proper frame rates. It's not going to cause any grief. There's no audio in here. I don't need to worry about that. Only other thing I need to do is where it says output 2 not yet specified. Well, I need to make sure it's going to the right folder. Now you can see it's called Master Movie because that was the name of my composition, but it doesn't matter. I can change that name. But where I want it to go is to sample movie. Okay, that's where your rendered movie should go. So everything's now ready to go. I've got the right format, custom QuickTime, a master movie. It's going to the right folder. All I need to do now is hit the render button and wait for it to finish rendering. Okay, and depending on how long your project is, this could take minutes to hours to sometimes days. But once you hear that little magic fairy wand, in my sample movie folder, I have my master movie. So when I click on it, it opens up in QuickTime, and there's the project that we just did. This is the file that I would bring into my NLE or whatever I was going to use it on. Play it back on media players in the TV studio for playback. So this is proper workflow right here, folks, okay? Because at the end of the day, if I were to, quit After Effects, and it says, did you want to save? No, I already saved, right? I hope I already saved. So After Effects quits. Now here's, when you hand me your folder with all this stuff, I'm going to go to the finished project. I'm going to go to that final version, well, at least my spelling of final. I'm going to double click so then I can mark it. Because what I'm looking for is to see if you've done some of the various things that I've asked you to do. But if you don't follow my workflow, I go to open this up, it's all offline. You're going to lose marks. You're going to lose marks because your workflow is a mess. And that's why it's so important. Because when you're starting in this business, you're always the junior person. You're the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. And when you're working in After Effects as a junior After Effects editor, your job is basically to set up the project. Make sure the files are all imported, the links are proper, you set up the workflow, and that's it. The senior artist comes in and does the rest, and you watch and learn. But you know what? If you can't even do that right, well, you're never going to get past that. You're basically going to get shown another job, and maybe your next job will have come with a badge, that says "Welcome to Walmart." Not knocking. The job is a job, but you don't need 3 years of college and $35,000 worth of debt to work at Walmart. That's the point that I'm making. So don't get offended. All right, please watch these videos. Everything I'm doing in here is for a reason. This is how you have to work with this piece of software. There's no shortcuts, people. No shortcuts.